My daughter's youth pastor offered her special mentoring, and I discovered what that really meant. I was folding laundry in the living room when my 16-year-old daughter Iris came home from youth group looking happier than I'd seen her in months. She practically floated through the door with this glow about her that immediately caught my attention. When I asked about her evening, she mentioned that Pastor Dominic had offered her a special mentoring opportunity for students showing spiritual leadership potential. My first reaction was pride, because Iris had been struggling with confidence after a difficult breakup, and any positive attention seemed beneficial at the time. Pastor Dominic explained it would involve weekly one-on-one sessions to develop her testimony and prepare her for a youth ministry leadership role. The way Iris described it made it sound like an honor, something only a select few students were offered. She showed me a printed schedule he'd given her with meeting times always listed as Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. at his office in the church annex building. I remember thinking how organized and professional it seemed with official church letterhead and everything. Over the next few weeks, Iris attended these mentoring sessions faithfully, always coming home energized and talking about spiritual growth concepts I didn't quite understand. She'd mentioned things like discovering her true calling and learning to surrender completely to guidance from spiritual authority. The language felt slightly off to me, more intense than typical youth group discussions, but I attributed it to my own lack of recent church involvement. My ex-husband had been the religious one in our marriage, and after our divorce 3 years ago, I'd maintained Iris's church attendance more out of routine than personal conviction. Pastor Dominic had actually been helpful during that difficult transition, offering family counseling sessions that Iris found comforting. He was in his early 30s, charismatic and well-liked by both the youth and their parents. Everyone spoke highly of his dedication to the teenage members of our congregation, often mentioning how he went above and beyond typical pastoral duties. One evening, about a month into the mentoring, I noticed Iris had started dressing differently for these Wednesday sessions. Instead of her usual jeans and oversized hoodies, she was wearing dresses and putting on makeup, which seemed unusual for a church meeting. When I commented on it, she got defensive and said Pastor Dominic had explained that presenting yourself well was part of respecting the sacred space of spiritual mentorship. The explanation made a certain kind of sense, though something about it nagged at me. She also mentioned he'd asked her not to discuss the specific content of their sessions with others, including me, because the mentoring involved personal spiritual matters that required confidentiality to be effective. This bothered me more directly because I'd always maintained open communication with Iris about everything, but she assured me it was similar to confession in Catholic churches, a private space between believer and spiritual guide. I reluctantly accepted this explanation while making a mental note to pay closer attention. The following week, I decided to pick Iris up early from her session, arriving at the church annex around 8:30 p.m. instead of the usual 9 p.m. end time. The annex building was oddly dark except for a single light in what I knew was Pastor Dominic's office on the second floor. I texted Iris that I was waiting in the parking lot, expecting her to come down within a few minutes. Instead, she didn't respond for nearly 20 minutes, and when she finally emerged from the building, her hair was disheveled and she looked flustered. She claimed they'd been deep in prayer and had lost track of time, and that her phone had been on silent as required during sessions. In the car, I noticed she was wearing a silver bracelet I'd never seen before, delicate with a small cross charm. When I asked about it, she said Pastor Dominic had given it to all his mentoring students as a symbol of their commitment to the program. That night, I couldn't sleep, my mind replaying the evening's details and finding connections I didn't want to acknowledge. The next morning, I called my friend Vanessa, whose daughter had been active in the youth group, and